It's a little bit off from what normally we are used to hearing. So please bear with me. But first, I'll just start with prayers. Om Timirandasya Jnananjala Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakha Vitamscha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everybody. Gaur Kumar Prabhu, I'll share my screen.
Yes, please.
Can you see it?
Yes, we can see it. It's clear.
Okay, so today we are gonna talk or discuss rather about Vedic science and why is it important to believe it or not to believe it? Because, you know, generally when we hear about something other than modern science, we are generally not um, ready to have faith in it. So let's see, it's my a little bit of humble effort, and let's see if we can have all put a little bit of faith by at least by the end of this talk. So to begin with, let's describe what is Vedic science. So Veda means knowledge, and it's derived from Sanskrit root vid. Vid means vidya, or means with to know, to see, or to cognize. So Vedas are the vidyas of sages shown on the inner screen of their meditative mind. Okay, and Vedic science may refer to a number of different disciplines. It can be ancient and modern, scientific, metaphysical, proto-scientific. It's found in or it is based on Vedas. Now, Vedas, all this knowledge that was there from millenniums, this knowledge was always not written down. So there are two different ways of how this knowledge was transferred: Shruti and Smriti. So Shruti means what is heard. So people at that time, they were so knowledgeable, they were so intelligent, and their brain capacity was so amazing that they could basically remember everything word for word if they heard it one time, even if they heard it one time. Okay. So some of the knowledge was just passed as shruti. They would just speak shlokas and the next generation would remember it. And some of this is opposite to it is smriti, means what has been remembered, written down, and passed on to the next generations. So the Vedic scriptures, there are a lot of them. Even I am not aware of some of this. When I was researching to make this PowerPoint, I came across some of the smritis, some of the literatures that I was not aware of. So basically, you have these kind of literature. So you have the shrutis, the smritis, the darshan shastras, the puranas. Then there are other writings of various acharyas and jagadgurus, writings of bhaktas, saints. There are itihasas, which are big epics like Mahabharata, Ramayana, and there are the agamas. So all these, they comprise of Vedic literatures. Okay, so we have in India, basically, we have all this knowledge from Vedas. And all this knowledge, how it was conceptualized, that we don't know. Okay, now in modern science, what happens is, let's come to modern science. So modern science, what does science mean? How do we define science? So this word science has come from the word scientia, which means knowledge. So it is a pursuit and application of knowledge and understanding of natural and social world, and which follows a systematic methodology based on testable explanations and evidence about the universe. That's how we define science today. And there are again variety of branches. So some are majority of them are empirical sciences, natural sciences, like physics, chemistry, biology. Then there are applied sciences like engineering science, medicine, material science. Then there are the social sciences, and of course then there are the formal sciences like logic, mathematics, and statistics. So we have such a ton of information even in this age. And how do we arrive at this information? How have we have gathered this information? So the scientific process involves a particular, there is a particular chain of events that happens, and then finally we get the knowledge that we have in today's world. So because I am a scientist, I do this day in, day out. So this is my way of explaining how we gain knowledge in today's world. So uh, first part of scientific methodology is observation. You have, when you look at the world or when you look at the natural phenomena, you have certain observations. Now, if you are inquisitive, if you are scientific minded, then based on these observations, you will do some background research. Okay, if this is happening, why is this happening? So you would do some background research, try to find out. Once you have the research, all the research, then you will frame questions in your mind. Okay, that, okay, this is happened, I observed this, but let's say I observed the phenomena A. Why is this phenomena A happening? I've done some research, but I cannot find the answers. I have some clues. So let me frame a question. Okay, so you have a question which you formally write up as a hypothesis. You hypothesize phenomena A is happening because of so and so reasons. Now, your job is to do experiments to be able to come to conclusions as to whether what you hypothesized is true or is not true. Okay, so generally you will not achieve what you achieve to prove what you hypothesize in one go. that never happens. So you will have a series of experiments. Some are difficult, some are simple, and you have all these data. So then what you will do, you will analyze all this data, and based on the data, you come to a conclusion. Now, once you have the conclusions in today's world, you cannot keep to yourself. Even if you have a positive data or a negative data, you have to communicate your results. Okay, at least that is ethically and morally right thing to do. So even if you have negative data, you will have to communicate the results. So now, now when you have these results, you either can accept the hypothesis or you reject the hypothesis based on what your results give you, right? If your hypothesis is acceptable, your conclusion is correct, and your hypothesis is acceptable, then that means you have totally proved what you had the question or what you hypothesized, and now you have the results. That is all is well and good. What happens when you have to reject the hypothesis? That means what you set out to prove is not totally correct. So it's partly correct, or it's not correct at all. Then this becomes a ground data for a new research project, or for some future research projects, in which you can use partly these data as your background search. Okay, this was not correct this time, so maybe I need to tweak a little bit, maybe I need to change my hypothesis a little bit, and then you go for your next experiment. So generally, this is how today's scientific process works, right? It's very important that we understand this scientific process, because as I continue with my talk, we'll understand, when we come towards a conclusion, we'll understand the differences between today's scientific process or modern science and the Vedic science. So this is the scientific process today. Now, if I give you a question, here you have two people, two personalities. One is Rishi Agastya, and one is, you all probably know him very well, Dr. Stephen Hawking. My question is, who are you more likely to accept as a scientist? I bet all of you will mostly say it is Dr. Stephen Hawking, right? Because he's a published, just as Gaur Kumar said, I'm a published scientist. When he introduced me, he said, I'm a published scientist, and he went so on and so forth. So when people say, okay, this person has published, this person, has worked in research, you generally, normally people get very impressed, and they say, okay, since the person has published, the person has PhD, that person is supposed to be a scientist, a real scientist. Whereas the person on the left, Rishi Agastya, you would say, who knows what he did? Maybe he wrote some scriptures, but we don't believe. It's a little hard to put faith. So now I will show you certain examples where you will understand the vastness of the Vedic knowledge as opposed to the current knowledge that we have using modern science and modern techniques. Okay? So I call them Vedic scientists. And there is not one single discipline where we have not seen the eruditeness of all these sages. Okay? Be it astronomy, where you have Aryabhatta, who has written Aryabhatyam, astrology, surgery, anatomy, economics, atomic theory, architecture, aerodynamics, medicine. Not only that, even in literature, mathematics, warfare, story writing, politics, philosophy, alchemy, every discipline these sages have covered. They have shown us, they have written volumes and volumes of books, and they have shown us that they have excelled, they have understood the science behind all these disciplines. Okay, so now let me first introduce you to medical science. Of course, I am a little biased towards this because I work in the field. So, first, I'm going to show you some examples of how these sages or rishis, they have used their Vedic knowledge and depicted to us what we understand now with the use of modern instruments. So, for example, if you if today, this we know today because of we used advanced microscopy and sonography, etc. So we know that when there is fertilization, the sperm enters the ovum, and then there are different stages of embryo development, all the way, all the way to 9 months. The position of the embryo in the womb, and we know all this because there are X-rays, because we have ultrasound, we can see the position of fetus, everything, right? So when I show you this, you say, yeah, this is because of the advancement of modern science. We are able to understand the embryology, how the child is developing. But now, just look at this sculptures. These sculptures are from an ancient temple called Sri Vadukanthaswamy Temple, which is near Dharapuram and 60 kilometers away from Coimbatore. Now, this temple, we don't know the exact date of when the temple was built, but archaeologists say that it is at least 1,000 years old. So, 1,000-year-old temple having a picture of a sperm entering the egg, showing the exact position of the fetus in the womb with the umbilical cord. You see how the fetus even changes position, that is being shown. So in the absence of so-called modern day techniques, how did these people manage to depict this so intricately and so accurately on stone? That means these people had the knowledge, right? The embryology term has been coined of like since last 100 or 200 years or so. But these people knew embryology even before the term embryology existed, right? So there has been details about the specific stages of embryo described in such a detail that even I was stunned when I read it. So Kapila Muni was the first person who studied the embryo. And in Bhagavat Purana, which is composed about 1800 BCE, so this is about 3,800 years old, that literature has all information about embryology. Okay, he has detailed how ovum and how sperm and egg fertilize, how long it takes for the fertilization, how long it stays there in the ovary, then how the fetus develops. Each character has been described, each character to such a detail that only now scientists have been able to know some of these things. Okay. Um, I am surprised to know that they had also described about chromosomes. So instead of calling chromosomes, they call them as gunavidhi. And they have described that 23 gunavidhis from a man fuses with 23 gunavidhis from the woman. That means they even had ideas of chromosomes and genes. Okay, and this was just mind blowing. So let's move to the next one. The next discipline I wanted to show you was Ayurveda. So Charaka, again, we don't know the exact date of when he existed, but This, as you can see, it is at least 2000 years old. He was a principal contributor to Ayurvedic system of medicine, and he has compiled an entire medical treatise, which is called as Charaka Samhita. And it is one of the most important, um, out of the three books, this is one of the most important book for Ayurveda. Okay. And he, in, in the Middle Ages in Europe, when anatomy was confused with different theories, Charak Samhita revealed in great details facts about human anatomy, embryology, pharmacology, blood circulation, even diseases like diabetes, TB, and heart disease. And this was like 2000 years ago. Okay. So, next example I wanted to give you was from an ancient saint known as Shushruta. He was a physician who was so good that he would also perform surgeries. There have been records that he has performed cataract surgeries. He has performed brain surgeries even, and this was 600 years before um, Christ. So it's approximately 2,600 years old, and he has in his books he has even shown the instruments that were used for surgery. So, for example, you can compare these Vedic instruments with the modern surgical instruments, and you see that basically these instruments, which are like 2,600 years old, are as good, or in fact sometimes better, than today's modern instruments that are being used for surgery. And I know this because I do this every day. So this itself is a proof that, Vedic science was much advanced than what we give it credit for. And this is not only limited to medical science, it's also in all other disciplines. For example, in Aryabhatta, he has made important contributions in arithmetic, algebra, trigonometry. Okay, his main book is called Aryabhatiya, and he has introduced place value system. So, for example, we know that the zero was invented by Indians, right? So he has in his book, he has place value system. He also has worked on approximation for pi. So the thing why people, or why people of our generation don't understand these, or don't give them credit for what they did, I think basically is also because these people were so intelligent. They have written all these research that they did, all these findings that they had in Sanskrit shlokas. And we today don't understand, we are not so proficient with Sanskrit. We don't know what some of the things means. That's why. So look at this shloka. He describes the value of pi with the help of a shloka. So the shloka basically means if you add 4 to 100, multiply by 8, and then add 62,000, then by this rule, the circumference of a circle with a diameter of 20,000 can be approached. So that means if you do the calculation, you'll get the value of 3.1416. And this value is accurate up to 3 decimal places. Also, in Ganita Pada 6, he has given actual formula to calculate the area of a triangle. Okay, so even geometry, they were very good at geometry. They were so advanced that they understood all these basic fundamental principles. He has also given results for summation of series and squares and cubes. This is of course not my field, but at least I can appreciate that This is not a simple mathematical problem, series and squares and cubes. You know, Um Another thing, all these people were actually good at so many different disciplines, not just one. So Aryabhatta was also a very good astronomer. So he showed also, this is written in one of his shlokas, that Earth rotates about its axis daily, and the apparent movement of stars is a relative motion caused by rotation of Earth. At that time, or whatever, 1000, 2000 years ago, people used to think that the sky rotates around the earth. But he correctly predicted that the earth is rotating, and which is why you see the movement of the stars in the sky. He also was the first one to explain why solar and lunar eclipses occur. Okay, and he also stated that moon and all the other planets, they shine by the reflected light of the sun. He was also one of the people who defined sines, cosine ratios. He also was very important contributor to trigonometry. I also saw, when I was researching, I also saw he also had described, sine and cos tables, the tables that we normally use in trigonometry. So he even had worked on those tables. It was just amazing. And so, rightly, India's first satellite, which was sent in space, was named Aryabhatta. He also that satellite also features on a Indian 2 rupee note, actually. Another saint scientist was Bhaskaracharya, and he accurately defined the time taken by Earth to orbit Sun. Okay, so he accurately defined it up for as 365 days, 365.25 days. Um, he has written a book called Siddhanta Shiromani, where again he is writing about planetary positions, eclipses, cosmography, mathematical techniques, and astronomical equipment. Okay, now let's come to astronomy. This is another discipline which is uh, so so ancient, and the Vedic knowledge is amazing even in this aspect. So here in Rig Veda, it has been described how, so Rig Veda, we don't know even who wrote it, it's so old. So even in Rig Veda, since time immemorial, we knew that the sun is at the center of our solar system. So all the planets, all the planets are rotating around the sun, and the sun is at the center, and therefore it's called a heliocentric model. So it's written that as the wheel rotates on its axis, in the same mechanism, all the planets rotate around their axis and revolve around the sun. So not only that the planets rotate around their own axis, they also revolve around their uh, uh, around the sun. So all this was already known. Okay, and unfortunately, this has been contributed. This has been attributed now to people like Galileo in the Middle Ages. People like Galileo and Copernicus and whatnot. But this knowledge was always there. Another important uh, story I want to tell you is that we all know that there are 10 avatars of Lord Vishnu, right? So one of the avatars was Varaha avatar. And in Varaha avatar, when somebody recites us this story, usually people will, debunk it because they'll call it mythology or this or that. But if you hear the story carefully, you will know that Lord Varaha, when the earth was earth because of Hiranyaksha. Hiranyaksha, submerged the earth in the ocean. So now Lord Varaha goes to the ocean and lifts the earth up in his two tusks. In there, it is clearly mentioned that the earth is Bhugol. Bhu means earth, Gol means round. While now, right now, in the 21st century, people have been debating about the flat earth theory and everything. Thousands of years back, we already knew that the earth is round, right? So you can see in temple, even in our old like temples, ancient temples in India, you will clearly see that earth has been shown in a round shape. So this was a common knowledge. It's not a revelation, it's common knowledge. These examples are really very, very nice. So if you look out the sky on a normal look out at the sky at normal night, when there is not too much light around, the 15th bright object that you will see in the sky is a star which is called as Antares. Okay, and we know this now because of Hubble telescope and all the other whatnot telescopes and so much equipment, so many calculations, so many scientists working on it. We know that now, that Antares is the 15th brightest star in the night sky. Okay, and its mass is that of 12 times that of sun. It is huge, huge, huge. 12 times that of sun. Okay, it is a huge star. But if you are familiar with the Indian astronomers, Vedic astronomers, this star is commonly called as Jyeshtha. Jyeshtha means an elder person, elder. When you have an elder brother or something, you call him Jyeshtha, Jyeshtha brother. So our ancient scientists, sages, they already knew that this star, which is not even the brightest, it is 15th brightest. So you probably, when you look at it, you'll look at it like it's like a small dot. It's 15th brightest, but they knew that this is Jyeshtha, means this is very, very big. It's elder to our sun. They already knew this. How did they know this? Another example, the Great Bear, right? We all know where the Great Bear is. We all know where the pole star is. Now, in this Great Bear constellation, there are two stars. You can see here. These stars, they are called as Arundhati and Vashishtha. Okay, so you will, if you see for naked eye, you will see that only it looks like one star, but actually, if you look at through telescope, they are very faint. So you will see it's a twin star system. There are two stars which revolve around each other. Okay, so in India, we have the tradition that when in South India especially, when a couple gets married, they are taken outside on the sky to look at the sky, and then the couple looks at this sky, these stars after they're married, the Arundhati and Vashishtha. Now, why is the couple made to look at these two stars particularly? Because these two are twin stars. So what happens is, when you have twin stars, usually one star is stationary and the other star revolves around it. But what is different with these two stars, Arundhati and Vashishtha, is that these two stars revolve around each other. So the idea is the husband and wife should be, taking care of each other. So this idea was known that this is a twin star. These stars are different than other twin stars. because they are revolving around each other, and there will be some auspiciousness if you take, if you have their darshan as soon as you are married. So this scientific fact was known long, long, long time back. Okay, so this is a very nice example, or one of my favorite examples from astronomy. Now let's come to physics. So we all know what is diffraction, right? Diffraction refers to phenomena that occur when a wave encounters an obstacle or an opening. So any kind of wave, sound wave, light wave, when it goes from one medium into the other medium, it will change, right? It undergoes diffraction. So normal understanding is that an Italian scientist named Francisco Maria Grimaldi, he coined this word diffraction, and for the first time, he recorded the accurate observations of this phenomena in the year 1660. Okay, so just look, 1660. Now let's go here. This is a very humble looking temple. It was built in between 11th and 12th centuries by Kunduru Choras. Okay, during the reign of kings Kakatiyas. This temple is in Telangana and it's called Chaya Someshwara Temple. Why it's called Chaya Someshwara Temple? Chaya means shadow. Someshwara means Lord Shiva. So if you see, there is a lingam of Lord Shiva here, and all days, whenever there is light outside, no matter what time of day it is, throughout the day, there is a shadow of a pillar which falls exactly on the lingam. Exactly on the lingam. Okay. So all the scientists were breaking their heads to find out how this is happening. And then they finally found out that this is because of the effect called diffraction. So they don't understand how, but there are 4 stone pillars which are placed outside of this sanctum, inner sanctum of the temple, and the shadows of these 4 pillars, whenever there is sunlight outside, falls exactly. It kind of converges into one shadow which falls exactly on the lingam. Okay, so this temple was built 500 years or 600 years before even that guy coined the term diffraction. So not only did they understand the science about a scientific basis of the word diffraction, they even used it in their architecture. So such was the advanced architecture of yesteryears. And this one again is my favorite. So if you think that Sir Isaac Newton was the first scientist who propounded the theories of motion, then we probably have to think this again, because according to the Vedic scientists, Rishi Kannad, he had proposed 3 laws of motion, and he calls them Teen Vaisheshika Sutra. And this was done 1800 years before Sir Newton. Okay, so look at what these sutras say. I'm not going to read the Sanskrit part, but I'm just going to read the translation. So it says that change of motion is due to impressed force. Second law, change of motion is proportional to the impressed force and is in direction of the force. And the third law is every action has equal and opposite reaction, which is exactly same as the laws of motion which have been proposed by Newton. I have checked them. Okay, the only difference is all these have been um, all these laws have been proposed in Sanskrit. Okay, so normal people would not understand it, and we don't, we are not very well versed with the Vedas to know all this. So we basically know only what we are taught in the textbooks. Then when it comes to architecture and engineering, it's mind blowing. So this is one of the step wells in India. It's called Chand Bauri. It's in the Indian state of Rajasthan. Just look at the architecture of this step well. There are 13 floors. There is place for the king and the queen to sit, and people can go down, fill water, and come back up. Just look at this architecture. And this was built sometime in the 8th to 9th century. Then he is a guard. He is a guard at Chennakeshwara Temple, Belur, Karnataka. It was built in early 12th century. Can you see the intricate carvings of the headgear, of the ornaments that this guard is wearing? I mean, what kind of tools, what kind of things they would have used to make this? Even in modern uh, world, when we are building Burj Khalifas and all these big towers, we don't have the intricacy to make these kind of carvings. Look at this. This is another example. This is ceiling inside the Dilwara Jain temple, which is in Rajasthan. Now, this was built between, there are a series of temples, it's not just one temple, but these were built between 11th and 16th century. And look at the architecture. There are 16 Vidya Devis, all of them standing in different poses. They look different. Look at the intricate carvings of flowers and leaves. And this is the ceiling. Okay, it's not even the pillars. This is the ceiling. So just imagine the amount of the precision in engineering and architecture that they had. Now here, this is another example. It's called it's a talav. Talav means pond, a lake, a big lake. So this is a lake, and in the lake, 1300 years ago, they had pipes. Okay, they had pipes which would carry water from the river into the lake, so that this water could be used by the people for their normal purposes. So they had such intricate engineering systems even in that time, 1300 years ago. This again is a mind-boggling carving of a stone window. So this everything is stone, and this sieve, this net that has been carved, is of stone. Now the beauty of this is the person who is outside cannot see what is inside, but the person who is inside can see who is standing outside. It's really, really beautiful. So this is a queen's palace. Queens used to sit inside, and the kings probably didn't want outside people to take a look at queen who's sitting here, but the queen can definitely see who's sitting outside. So just look at the intricacy of this carving. Same is true for, so these are just, this is just tip of the iceberg. There are thousands and thousands of examples, beautiful examples that can be shown about the architecture, how the finesse of the architecture, and the beauty. It's amazing. So this is another temple called the Sun Temple in Modhera, Mehsana district, Gujarat. And they have carved like scenes from Ramayana on these pillars of the temple. It's actually a archaeological heritage site, protected site. Similarly, there is another masterpiece which is called as Keshava Temple in Belur, Karnataka. And the carvings are so intricate, so beautiful, that you can actually put your fingers behind the images that have been carved. Okay. Sometimes the carvings are so fine that you can actually pass a needle. So, what kind of instruments have they used to build this? Because if a thin 1 millimeter needle can go inside, what kind of instruments did they use? What kind of technology they were using? Same is true for metallurgy. Everybody knows the famous iron pillar, which is there in the Qutub complex in New Delhi. In spite of the New Delhi pollution, this pillar has been standing for more than 1,000 years without being rusted. So, what kind of metal smelting, you know, what kind of technology they had that they could pull this off? We're running low on time. That's why I'm not going to go in details about the zinc production. But India is probably the only country that knew how to extract zinc from its ore for like 3 to 4 thousand years. We were the only country in the world who knew how to extract zinc. So that is another feather in the cap in the metallurgy field. Aeronautics in I'm not going to show you the video, but I'll tell you uh, the details of the video. So in 1875, a book was found written by Maharshi Bharadwaj in one of the temples in India. And the book was about Vimanika Shastra. Vimanika means aeronautics. Uh, so it was all about aeronautics, and the book had operation of ancient Vimanas and included information on how to make this in Vimanas flights, how to protect these from storms and lightnings, and also how to uh, drive these Vimanas on solar energy. Okay, not on modern, white petrol or whatever they use for. So this technology is not known now. It's lost to us, but all the information is there. We just don't know how to extract this information. Okay. Um, One of the other important aspects that they knew, the ancients knew, was about navigation. So if you go to, there is a temple in Gujarat, very much near the coast of Gujarat. It's called Somnath Temple. There is a pillar outside the temple, in the temple premises, facing the sea. And this pillar is at least 2,000 years old. There is an inscription on the pillar, and the inscription says that a straight line can be drawn from this place to the South Pole, and there is no land in between. Okay, that means the Indian people or the Vedic people, they knew that that this whole region is this whole region is ocean, unobstructed ocean, and there is Antarctica in the South Pole. So that geographical location was known. Okay. Another story is that we all know, or it's we have been taught in history that Vasco da Gama was the first person, the first European to come to India via sea route, right? What they don't know is that in the memoirs of Vasco da Gama, he had written a diary, and in that he clearly mentions that when he sailed around the Cape of Good Hope and he came to Mombasa, he didn't know how to go to India because he was very scared of being lost in the sea. he always sailed very close to the coast so that he, if something happens, if he gets shipwrecked or something, he is at least close to the coast. But in Mombasa, he met an Indian trader. Now, the Indian trader, he was a Gujarati guy. This Indian trader had ships because he was he was into trading business. So he had ships which were 12 times the size of the ship of Vasco da Gama. So Vasco da Gama is supposedly having the biggest ship in Europe because he has been given this responsibility to go to India, find a sea route to India. Now, this guy, the Gujarati guy, is having a ship which is 12 times bigger than the ship of Vasco da Gama. So Vasco da Gama meets this Gujarati guy, and the Gujarati guy says, "Oh, okay, you are afraid to go to India. I will send a couple of my ships with you, and they will guide you to India." So that's how, with the aid of these ships, he has come to Vasco da Gama came to Calicut and then finally to Goa. And he has written this in his memoirs. The Gujarati guy's name was Kanha. Okay. So again, I think the Vedic people were cheated out of this too. So the idea, the moral of the story is that they say that Vasco da Gama was the first person to come to Calicut, but long before that, Indian traders were already traveling all around the world. So I have been just speaking about all the men, all the rishis, that the rishis were scientists. But again, to satisfy all the feminists, there was gender equality even at the olden times. So it's not just the men were rishis or sages, the women were rishikas also. And there have been detailed accounts of how some of these women from Vedic periods have contributed a lot to the Vedic literature, um, scientific literature during the Vedic times. Okay, I'm not going to go into details, but these are real women. Gosha, Lopamudra, Maitreyi, Gargi. They have also contributed a lot to Vedas, actually. So now comes the real question. How did they know what they know? How did these people who understood so many things um, millennia before all of us knew, all of the Western world knew, how did they know this? And the answer is that I think Vedic thought holds that the best instrument of knowledge is a silent mind. Okay, so mind is like an unflawed mirror, and if we want knowledge, then we have to go deep within us. We have to have um, yoga to link with something supreme, because we know what we do, what I do as a scientist. I use my senses, my instruments which have been designed, but again realize that my senses, human senses, are limited. I cannot see ultraviolet light, I cannot see infrared light, I cannot see so many things. I need microscope to look at organisms. Similarly, my instruments that I use, all the things that I use, microscopes, echocardiography machines, whatever I use, they all have limitations. So materials have limitations. Our bodies are material. Whatever we make, they are material. Whereas these rishi scientists, what they did is that they went inside of themselves. They got this knowledge through yoga, okay, through meditation. When they connected with the Supreme, they were able to get this knowledge. So I have heard there are stories in Bhagavatam where they are talking about, we talk about universes, right? There are stories in Bhagavatam where they talk about multiverses. Only recently we have been, you know, hearing about multiverse. All these physicists, they are throwing out theories about multiverses, quantum physics. How old is that? 100 years? But space time continuum and all of these, how old is this? Like 100 at the most, 100 years old. But all this is there, it's described in the stories of Bhagavatam. There have been rishis who have been doing interplanetary travel. They just think about it and then they are there, right? So we have to employ the right instrument of knowledge to gain an adequate knowledge of something, right? We cannot see sun with ears. In order to see sun and sunlight, we will have to use our eyes. So the same way, these rishis, these saints, they have used yoga, they have used meditation to go within themselves, to find, to link with the divine, spiritual thing. And that's how they have been handed down, they have been handed these knowledge that comes from the divine itself. So this is spiritual knowledge. So now if I ask you, who are you more likely to accept as a scientist? This guy or the person who has realized himself, the person who has realized the supreme? And I hope and I pray that at least we agree that, okay, if this guy is great, this guy is also great. I think that's all I have for you today. So in my concluding remarks, I will just say that Bharatvarsha has been such a birthplace of civilization and knowledge since time immemorial. And we have been handed down this valuable ocean of knowledge. And it is our responsibility to find this knowledge, to learn it, and to pass it down to our posterity. Thank you very much, and Hare Krishna.
Wow. Thank you so much, Arti. That was amazing. So much research. So incredible, as Atyana Mataji is saying. This was so incredible. Such a thorough presentation. Truly fascinating and mind blowing. Thank you so much for sharing this with us tonight. Amazing. Hare Krishna. So I'll open it up now. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask questions to Arti. Arti, if you can stop sharing, you can see everyone. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions, comments on this amazing presentation?
I have a question, Mataji. So, since you're in the field of medicine and you mentioned a lot about ancient science of medicines, so I just wanted to ask if there is any effort that is going on today in the field of medicine also and in general also to kind of extract these scriptures again and translate them and try to utilize it for the benefit of people like today. Is there any effort going on in that direction?
So, yes, so, but unfortunately, the effort has been in the wrong sense. So what happens is, Indians, as always, we have this tendency to undermine our own culture, to undermine our own knowledge, and we will grab with both the hands whatever is given to us by the Western world. So no wonder Prabhupada had to come to US to give us, ISKCON. He couldn't do that in India, right? So same way, we have this wealth of knowledge in India, but most of the people, they are not interested. However, what is happening is, therefore, other people like the Europeans, I know Germans, I know Chinese people, They are literally scoring, what they call it. They're going through all of these scriptures, trying to take whatever they can, and then, unfortunately, patent it and sell it as their own. So, for example, I can give you a simple example. How many of you have cut your finger in the house and your mother has come out of the kitchen and put turmeric on it? We never had band-aids growing up, right? We always had turmeric, right? Okay. And now Chinese people have patented turmeric. They were trying, I think Chinese people and American people, they were trying to patent turmeric as an antiseptic, which is their, and they called it is their finding. However, we knew this since millenniums, right? So it is actually a sorry state of affairs. And so I am actually very motivated. I don't know Sanskrit. I want to learn Sanskrit. I am very motivated to delve a little bit into this. I have a busy life, but I want to do that. I want to read the Ayurvedic scriptures and not to steal, but to share with the world.
Thank you so much. This was a wonderful presentation, and yeah, many facts. I mean, I'm pretty sure that for all of us here, it has surely, this presentation has encouraged us to have more faith in scriptures, in Vedic scriptures. And in that sense, so that we can take to the process given by the Vedic scriptures with more intensity. Yeah, at least I hope to do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jitendra Prabhu. That was very well said. Vinay Prabhu, you want to have a comment?
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Arti Mataji, thank you so much for this mind-blowing class. It was like really amazing facts and all the slides. And it can certainly help us to like get rid of the, like this class can help us get rid of the Bhav Daridra, like Shamanand Prabhu was sharing about this, like Indians nowadays have this problem of Bhav Daridra, anything like which is from Indian origin, like it turns out to be demeaning in some way. So Mataji, like and after this class, if like questions comes in regard to like position of earth, like earth being the center of universe, or like the position of moon and sun with respect to earth, that moon is beyond the sun, that which few facts like stated in the Vedic literatures. So like how if someone comes up with this, like how we can tackle these kind of questions in the context of whatever we have like you have shared in the throughout this session.
So the main thing for us is to know, as I said, we have to know our scriptures very well, right? And I am guilty of this. I don't know Sanskrit, so I don't know many of, I had to research to make this presentation. So, but all the important findings that we need, that we will have to counter argue, they are there in the scriptures. Okay. And I think there are books available also on these. So even if you cannot read the basic, the actual scripture, there will be translations and commentaries which are available. So if you really wanted to get into a debate with somebody about this, you can study these translations or books that are based on these scriptures. I think that will help.
Okay. Thanks again. Thank you very much for this class.
Thank you, Prabhu. Anyone else? I know Paul is interested in Vedic science, so please
Very,
go.
very much interested. Hare Krishna, Dr. Shinde. I really appreciate your talk. It was wonderful. Not so much a question, but just a personal thing. So I grew up basically in the halls of Einstein. My mother and father both worked there for decades. Yeah, long time ago. But I miss that place a lot. But it's great to know that there's a scientist like you in such an important research institution. So that it's interesting how my worlds are coming together. But but it was really, 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 really amazing to hear you speak, and the passion that you have. So I know you're very busy, I'm sure, but if you can be a force to bring this knowledge to the public, there's so much that was lost to the West because of so many religious and societal and economic and causes that, and has been reappropriated by the West. Yeah, it's definitely something to make people aware about, and to share what you found.
Sure. So I just wanted to share a little bit. You know Nalanda University, right? Have you heard about Nalanda University? It
Mm-hmm.
was like a very big institution before, when, you know, this was probably like 2000 years ago or even more. Um, there were thousands and thousands of students studying there, even people from outside the country at that time, from Russia. Students would come from Russia, from Afghanistan, far away countries, and they were studying there. And uh, unfortunately, the invaders, Muslim invaders, came and they burnt the university down. And I don't remember the exact number of days, but I think it's like more than 20 days. The library of the university was burning. So that is the amount of literature that we had and that we have lost. $20 at least, I think. Yeah, so whatever is remaining, you know, we have to kind of grab it with both our hands and save it.
Thank you, Paul. Anyone else? Darshan, you want to say something? Yes, please.
Yeah, Haribol Prabhu's wonderful presentation. Loved all the details about the architecture and the inner workings of, the technology that ancient Indians and Vedic, civilization had for, all these achievements. So I just wanted to add one thing to what Arti said regarding the, the Vedic cosmology. And this was also to add to your question, Vinay Prabhu. So I have had the same, questions in my heart as well regarding some what may seem as discrepancies in the way, Vedic astrologers describe about, where the moon is or where the earth is and where the orientations of the different planets are. And I have had the opportunity to speak with a couple of ISKCON brahmacharis who have actually researched a lot in this arena. And one of the things that has come to my notice is that the reason why many a times they have these specific models which may seem very contrasting to what the modern accepted models are, is that the interpretations of the way the ancient Vedic astronomers have described in their own writings about the models has not been rightly interpreted by modern day people.
Yes.
And that's the reason why the poetic way in which all these ancients have written down the models. So what may be the apogee of the moon, basically covering up the earth and forming an eclipse, has been described by something like Rahu eating, the sun. And that modern day people literally interpret as a demon eating. So there are a lot of contrasting opinions about that. And I came across this one wonderful book that I would recommend each and everyone who is interested to know about the Vedic, model of universe. It's called as Bhagavata Cosmology. It's written by Pavaneshwar Das, who is a very learned brahmachari. I believe he's from IIT, and he has taken the model of universe as described in Srimad Bhagavatam, and he has tried to explain it in a very modern day, model of the universe that we observe. So I would highly recommend, if you have any questions pertaining to that, please, check out the book. Thank you. But wonderful presentation. Loved it.
If you have more questions, you can send it to Darshan. He will answer your question. To Arti. Thank you, Arti Devi, for the class. I have a quick comment. I know many of us go to Bhakti Center. If you have seen this devotee called Prabhu, and I was talking to him about his profession, what he does, and he said he does trading, and I just couldn't believe that he does trading. And he told me he does astrological trading, and I'm like, what are you talking about? So I told him, okay, give me an example. Okay, he's like, okay, I will research, and when I trade, I'll send you an example. And he had sent me a text message. I think this was 2 years ago. He sent me a text message, okay, that because of X and Y reason, we think the prices of gold are going to go down by the end of the year. And I just saw that as a message, and I just like ignored it. By the end of the year, the prices of the gold had actually gone down. And his partner is one IITian Indian guy, and they both as a company, they trade in market, not only gold but other shares based on astrology. So it is interesting how Vedic science can be still applied in so many aspects of life, and as lucid or as fluid as financial market.
Thank you so much, Jitendra. That is wonderful. So any other final comments? I just have a couple of announcements and then we can end.
Yeah, Arti, yeah, it was a wonderful presentation. I mean, it was mind-blowing from beginning to end. I was like completely engrossed into, I'm fascinated and awed, looking at how much, was there in our, culture. And most of all, what I know that history is your passion, is your favorite subject, and the way which you are telling it is also very appealing and intriguing. So thank you so much for the research that you've done. And I also want to add that even now the Ayurveda is so popular here in Western is because of we never believed in Ayurveda growing up, but now we've come back to terms with it because of the Western influence, right? Because everybody around us are saying Ayurveda, and probably, so it's,
Life has come a full circle. Like I
yeah,
would refute to whatever my mom would say, do this. And I would say, why?
yeah,
I don't
exactly.
want to. Life has come a full
Yeah.
circle.
Yes. Like you said, every single medicine and herb we've not even, it's not left unturned. Every stone has been turned, but it has been our people as themselves have rejected all of those. So yeah, so but I think this is like the how you concluded is really nice. I think this has to be taken to the next generation and kind of pick it up from there and not to lose it. So I think we as this generation, I think we should also have all have onus to keep it going forward and promote it as much as possible. Thank you so much for this.
I really like your point, Nitya, that taking an onus, and I really been self-introspecting as how I can contribute and what I can do and what I can share it forward to the society. So I guess not only a matter of Vedic knowledge, but anything that what is your contribution? What are you going to do about it? That is something I think each individual should dwell on and strive for.
Wonderful point. So most of the people are focused on collecting and consuming, but we must connect and contribute is what Chaitanya Charan Prabhu says. So just want to mention that. So connecting and contributing is very important. So anyone else? Vishal, Karan, Vrinda, Athena Mataji, anybody wants to say one final word? thing that they got from this class? It is mind-blowing, as some of you said. Dhavalji?
Prabhuji, it was good to hear from her. I actually was knowing about few things, but going in depth about those things was good. So thank you for gathering all the information in one presentation. Like doing research is also a part of it. So
Yes, it was an amazing work of research. I mean, I'm going to share the recording. I have to watch this a couple more times to get all the facts. So thank you again, Arti, for taking time and for preparing such a wonderful lecture. And thank you for sharing so much wisdom with all of us. I'm very, very grateful. If you can keep coming and please giving us more such nuggets of wisdom, that will really, really help. So thank you so much for being here. I just have a couple of announcements. So from a scientist in the medical field, for next week, we're going to have the spiritual scientist himself. His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu is going to be here, same time at 9 p.m. next Wednesday. And he'll be talking about, for the first 20 minutes, he'll talk about Gaur Leela, some pastimes. And then he's going to open it up for Q&A for 40 minutes. I've told him, I spoke to him yesterday, I told him that expect some tough questions, Prabhuji. Got some really, really tough questions coming. So please come up with a list of questions that you would like to ask him. That's next Wednesday at 9 p.m. Also, I've been getting a lot of messages of some of you asking, what should you read or hear in preparation of Gaur Purnima? So Gaur Purnima is coming in 18 days. Today is March 10th, and exactly 18 days from now, March 28th is Gaur Purnima. I just want to share my screen and share something that's really helped us. So this is actually Chaitanya Bhagavat. The entire Chaitanya Bhagavat is here in this particular site that I'm going to share with you. So this, especially the reason why I said 18 days is, so Chaitanya Bhagavat focuses more on the early pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, the childhood pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, as opposed to Chaitanya Charitamrita, which focuses more on the Madhya Leela and the Antya Leela pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. So we have 17 lectures on the, these are not lectures, there's actually someone reading the Chaitanya Bhagavat with very nice melodious music in the back. And the person who's reading it is Damodar Prabhu, and he reads it very, very nicely, slowly, and it's very, very digestible. I mean, I really, really liked listening to this series. So if you can, please listen to these 17 lectures, and that will prepare you well for receiving Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on Gaur Purnima. So I'm going to share this link on our group. And so that's it. So thank you so much again for all of you for being here. And
one question.
Yes, Jitendra Prabhu, go ahead.
Questions to ask to Chaitanya Charan Prabhu have to be related to Gaur Leela or Prabhu or anything?
No, it need not be. You can even ask about the sun and the moon and which one and how with the Vedic cosmology and everything. Like whatever you want, you can ask. I've told him specifically that you can ask any question. Yeah, so please, please come prepared. And you're welcome to Arti and Jitendra. Please, Darshan, next week. Please feel free to join. Same place, same channel, same link at 9 p.m. next week. Thank you.
Invite Swagata also. He's also there on the phone.
Yes, Swagata also, please. Okay.
Acharji.
Okay. So thank you all so much. So I'll see you all next Wednesday, same time, same place. Take care. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. It was nice meeting everybody. Hare Krishna.